Now, I can give you some hints about how that plays itself out. So one interesting phenomena is how interest guides your ability to concentrate. Okay, so let's say that you've got an array of difficult papers on your desk and you have to read them. Now, some of those papers, independently of their difficulty, some of those papers will presume that you're actually interested in. And some of them you're not interested in. And so the papers that you're interested in come with this quality that the phenomenologists described as shining forth. There's something about them that grips your attention, that enables you to concentrate, that enables you to learn, and that enables you to remember, and in a relatively effortless way. Whereas the other papers that you're not interested in, assuming they're of equivalent difficulty, it's very difficult to focus your attention on, and they lie there in sort of an inert manner. So the phenasthai phenomena is partially apprehendable by considering what the difference is to you between something that you're interested in and something that you're not. Now, someone like Jung would think of that interest as a consequence of an internal process, a psychological process that's guiding your attention. But the phenomenologists, at least it's tricky because they go both ways on this, would consider the fact that some things are illuminated so that they're easy to concentrate on is actually a function of being itself. It isn't something that you apply to the world, it's a characteristic of being. Some things shine forth as meaningful and some things don't. Now the existentialists would say, at least in part, that you have a duty to follow the things that shine forth. That's where the moral element of this comes in. Now, Binswanger said, for example, what we perceive are first and foremost not impressions of taste, tone, smell, or touch, not even things or objects, but meanings. And then Binswanger and Boss split on the reason for why some things manifest themselves as compelling and some things don't. Binswanger would say that you come equipped with it's a Kantian idea, with an a priori ontological structure. And that's, imagine you're reading a book. So then you might say, and the book obviously has meaning. You're reading it and you're into it. You might ask yourself, where is the book? And you could say, well, the book is the physical object that I have in my hand. I mean, that's what people act like, in some sense, or at least that's what they say they act like. The book is the physical object. But then person A might read the book and say, I thought that was a terrible book, and person B might read that book and say, I thought that was a great book, and person A and B might differ on how they responded to the characters, and they're going to differ in terms of how they imagine the situation, and like, there's a tremendous amount of flexibility in exactly what constitutes the book. And so you'd say, well, the book is an artifact, and the artifact is produced by the author, but of course, it's not just produced by the author, because it's produced inside a cultural context that shaped the author and that shaped you, and then you bring something to bear on the book, which is the sum total of your individual knowledge and your enculturated knowledge. And so what that means is that it's almost as if there's a pattern that constitutes you, and there's a pattern that constitutes the book, and when you put the two of them together, you get a juxtaposition of the two patterns, and it's the juxtaposition that's the book. And it's the realization of this, in some part, that's led to the oddities of postmodernism and to the claim that there's no canonical meaning to any given text because it's a matter of interpretation. It's like, yeah, well, just because it's a matter of interpretation, and even maybe just because the interpretations are very wide in potential scope, that doesn't mean that the text doesn't have any meaning. But you can understand how that idea might have come about. Now, for Binswanger, the reason the book would be meaningful, at least in part, is because you're imposing something on it. And so that would be your individuality. Boss would say the opposite. He would say, well, no, the book itself is manifesting its meaning to you in some sense of its own accord. And that's because Boss doesn't necessarily make a distinction between the thing, the book, and the entire context within which it's embedded. And he would consider the meaning emerging as a consequence of that entire context. You can't separate the book out from the situation in which it's embedded.